Hey, what's up guys, Patrick here, and in this video I'm going to go over how to play fighting matchups as Oricorio and Magnezone. Why? Because in my previous video, where I show how to play the other matchups as Oricorio and Magnezone, a lot of you guys requested that I do a fighting matchup video. So here it is. I'm going to put a disclaimer that I am not a miracle worker. Oricorio and Magnezone is an electric type deck, and like all decks, they have their counters. But I will show you guys how to properly play these matchups to their win conditions, so at the very least you can increase your win rates against these fighting decks. So I want to rank these fighting deck matchups from easiest to hardest. Number 1, Lycanroc and Rampardos. Number 2, Garchomp and Rampardos. Number 3, Lucario and Rampardos. As you can see, there's a pattern here. The win conditions for all these fighting matchups is gonna involve one thing: keeping a healthy Magnemite on the bench and evolving it into a Magnezone before it is too late. Like I said, this is a counter matchup. Our deck has the tools to beat a fighting deck, but obviously you will need to get lucky with the right draws. I would like to emphasize this some more, since I know some people may not be happy with the idea that this deck gets hard countered by fighting decks, but it is what it is. This is how all decks work in this game. There is counters, there's strengths, there's weaknesses. Moving on to the gameplay. Lycanroc and Rampardos. The easiest fighting matchup out of the three. Mainly because the fact that Rockruff can search for his own evolution, but this is considered too slow for the amount of damage that Lycanroc can dish out. I actually don't see this deck anymore in the Master Ball rank, which is why I'm using an old clip, but I assume it just doesn't do too well against the current meta. You want your Oricorio up front to tank damage, and the Magnemite in the back. You need to evolve your Magnemite into Magneton on turn, so prioritize using supporters that can help you get there. My professor's research gets me to Magneton and Magnezone. If I didn't get it, then I would have had another professor's research, and I don't know, to allow me to get more potential draws. Rockruff searches for the Lycanroc here and ends their turn. If you read Lycanroc's ability, it will do 50 damage normally, but will be doubled to 100 if the opponent's HP is more than Lycanroc's HP. It doesn't matter much for this game since we are going first, but if we did go second, then we will need to make sure that the damage sequencing makes sense before attacking. And here is why. Using our current game example, because I drew a Giant's Cape and equipped it, Lycanroc's ability cannot one-shot me, since it will only do 70 damage, even with the 20 damage weakness bonus. Had I went second though, I will be attacking first potentially, thus causing Lycanroc's HP to be lower than ours. And even with the Giant's Cape, it will knock out the Oricorio within one hit. And even if we didn't draw the Giant's Cape here, it would not have mattered. What matters is that we have a Pokemon that is not our Magnemite, and dedicated to be evolved into Magnezone to do at least 10 damage to the Lycanroc. And for this game, it would have been our second Oricorio on the bench. If we didn't have our cape, then we would have started attaching the lightning energy onto our second Oricorio, so it will be able to attack at least once. So a cape will not push the Lycanroc out of the knockout range of our Magnezone. If it doesn't have a Giant's Cape, then I would choose to bring out the Magneton, which then I would evolve it into a Magnezone and one-shot it, which will win us the game for this particular match. In a match where they have a Skull Fossil on the bench, then they will have a Rampardos evolution draw to potentially win them the game. If I saw a Skull Fossil on the bench, then I would have considered equipping the Giant's Cape to the Magnemite instead to put the eventual Magnezone out of the KO range of a Rampardos. So what's interesting for this game is that my opponent also knows my win condition is the Magnezone, so he decided to Mars me in the previous turn when I had 4 cards to reduce the chance of me having a Magnezone in my hands. So over here, I decided to send out my Magneton to pretty much gamble that my next draw is gonna be a Magnezone. Because if I send out my Oricorio, and in the event that he has another Sabrina, then I will instantly lose the game. But luckily we got the Magnezone, and unless they get a Skull Fossil and Rare Candy with Rampardos, then we pretty much have the game secured. For a Garchomp and Rampardos matchup, same tactic applies. You need a Magnemite on the bench that we plan on evolving into Magnezone, and a tank in the active spot. In this situation, since we went first, we know that Oricorio will most likely be knocked out if the opponent evolves the Gibble to Galbite or Garchomp. We try to keep the active Oricorio alive anyways with the potion, since having a 20 HP heal in the future will not have any significant impact with the future damage breakpoints of our opponent's Pokemon. Trying to bet that the opponent will not evolve the Gibble is worth the gamble. The opponent unfortunately does have a Galbite to evolve it into, but fortunately for us it is not a Garchomp, so it is still manageable. We send out the Oricorio to attack back. We preface this research because remember our win condition is to try to get our Magnezone line up and running, and a Sabrina won't really do much to stall the game. Luckily, the opponent still doesn't have a Garchomp draw. We were able to get our Magneton draw, and we are now in great shape. We knock out their Galbite. The opponent still does not have their Garchomp evolution, and instead has a Rampardos evolution, which puts us in great shape. Rampardos knocks out the Oricorio, but takes 50 damage in the process. We evolve our Magneton into our Magnezone, and we knock out the Rampardos. The opponent has to get out their Garchomp in order to swing the game around. He doesn't, and then he concedes. For our Lucario and Rampardos matchup, I consider this the hardest matchup for Oricorio and Magnezone, mainly because their dex has potential to ramp up quickly. If the opponent goes first, then they probably can do 60 damage to our active Pokemon with Riolu in the active spot and a Lucario on the bench on turn 2. If we have a Magnemite in our active spot, then we'll instantly get knocked out. If they go second, then the Riolu will hit for 40 damage and then for another 40 damage minimum the following turn to knock out whatever active Pokemon we have in the front. But anyways, no need to think about all of that. We just need to play with the hand that we are dealt with. So same thing, you want a Magnemite that you can focus on evolving on the bench. Because we went second, we add in energy onto the Oricorio so we can attack with it at least once. The opponent develops a pretty strong board on their end, but we are glad to not see a Skull Fossil on the bench. So the professor's research got us the Magneton and the Magnezone, so now we are in great shape. So here's the most important part. We put down the second Magnemite on the bench in order to finish off the Riolu after we attack with the Oricorio, assuming the Riolu doesn't evolve into Lucario. And even if it does, that is fine, since we have our Magnezone to sweep. The main issue for fighting decks is that we can actually beat them if we evolve our Magnemite on turn, since the fighting decks are actually a turn behind from being able to utilize all their attacks due to requiring 2 fighting energies, assuming they don't get their Rampardos right away. So here, the opponent decides to evolve the Lucario on the bench, so the Riolu can knock out the Oricorio. Now we bring out the Magnemite to finish off the Riolu, which will then get knocked out by their Marshadow. And then which we will bring out our Magnezone, which will then sweep their Marshadow and their Lucario. And the opponent can't do anything since they don't have the Rampardos, and they are 1 energy behind. So that's pretty much it for how fighting matchups goes. If you can draw your Magnezone lineup in time while having a tank up front, then you have a strong chance of winning. If you can't draw the Magnezone lineup, then you pretty much lose the game. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting that like button as it helps me out a lot. Hope you guys did enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.